Hey guys, how's it going? Baron PC here, ready for my Friday night stream. I'm planning on working on the LARP stuff for quite a bit of the stream, but if anybody has anything particular they would like to talk about, feel free to hit me up in chat. Yeah, I mean, I stream on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Mondays I normally play Minecraft with Gil. Sorry, I'm always giving myself the side eye on the other monitor there. But on Wednesdays and Fridays, currently I'm working on LARP stuff, trying to get the main rules done. But if anybody has any questions on what I'm doing, feel free, ask away. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so last time I left off, I had finished a majority of the skill descriptions, along with their costs and everything. So pretty much all of the mechanics for how you interact in the game are done. That doesn't include, you know, how you work with the crafting system, or how you work with the guilds, or how combat is done. But basically all those things are very similar to other games, and there's a certain amount of understanding that LARPers have. They kind of know what's going on. So I don't want to take it as I have to explain everything fully. I want the rulebook to be very succinct. But I am going to have sections on combat and everything else. So yeah, basically I have all my charts describing all of my skill names, their character point costs, their stamina costs, which is the main resource you use to do skills within the combat system and the system overall. There are magic points and other things, but so basically, first and foremost, I went through how to build your character sheet. You choose your lineage, you spend your character points, and then you finalize your character sheet. So I did a breakdown of all the point systems. So we have character points. They're basically your XP or your skill points or whatever you want to call them. The system basically works so there are categories. You have to buy whatever category you want to buy skills from. Your lineage category and the basic skills do not force you to buy those categories, but each category costs consistently more points. So if you want to, say, buy the direct combat category, that one, your first one costs 5 points. Your next one after that, say you want to be more of a rogue character, so you're going to go with the group combat category, that would be 10. And then you wanted to go thievery, that would be 15 for that third category. So spreading yourself too thin, you're not going to have a lot of skills, but you're going to have access to skills down the road. Specializing in one particular thing, you're going to have a lot more of the skills first and foremost. Stamina points, you start the game with 5. You regain them through the course of the event by doing things that you should be doing for your own self-care anyway. So eating, sleeping, taking breaks, resting, things of that nature. And then there will be ways that you can boost how many stamina points you get. So the general thought process is 30 minutes of rest, you get 1 stamina point back. Doesn't sound a lot, especially with some of the skills. So that's why you need to mute your phone, Bear. Sorry about that, guys. And on vibrate. Cool. So that's why you need to find ways to augment how quickly you get stamina back over the course of the game. So that might be through potions that heal your stamina, or you might find that you want to build a building so it is more relaxing there, so it cuts the time in half. So instead of 30 minutes, it's 15 minutes for a stamina. Or you have a bard playing, so they basically craft a bardic instrument that allows the stamina for everybody that's hearing their performance to come back faster or gain more stamina over the course of the period of time. So there's a lot of things you can do with it, but I want to leave it open to the players to decide what they want to build, what they want to make, kind of how they want the game to progress whenever it comes to the crafting system. So after that, we have energy points, which is what you use for casting spells. You have to buy those, and you don't start off with any innately unless you are a particular lineage. Additionally, you have to learn spells in the game. So they're added directly to your character sheet. There's going to essentially be a spell list. And then you have to prepare what spells you want to be able to cast over the course of, the time period you have, over how much energy you have. So you have to track how many energy points you have to start, and you can prep your spells based off that energy total. And after you cast spells, you can do things to get that energy back. Yet again, very similar to stamina, only it's study, it's research, it's things of that nature. And there might be things that augment how quickly energy comes back. But it's going to come back actually slower than stamina because it is potentially more powerful. So maybe it takes an hour to get 1 energy back. Maybe you have to go and how you role play getting these things back is very much up to you. But there are ways that you can augment it. So stuff to keep in mind. Body points. They're your hit points. You lose them whenever you get to 0. You're bleeding out and dying and whatnot. Very much like in D&D. So you hit that point, you start bleeding out, and over a period of time, if you aren't healed, then you die. And if you don't receive, somebody can't fix that dead condition, then after 5 minutes you go and you become a spirit, and then you go and lose 1 of your essence points, which will be added in here. because that is important. Yeah, it should be here. I'm not going to call it essence points. It's just called essence. Essentially, that's the number of extra lives your character has. However, you can learn throughout the game that you can use your own essence almost like a currency. You can do different things with it, whether it is to help fuel magic, help craft items, bring some character back from the dead, giving your own essence up so whenever a character comes back from the dead, they don't feel any of the effects from it, things of that nature. So I'm going to add that section in here because technically it is part of the point system. And there we are. So, armor points. Armor points are taken out before body points, before your hit points. Basically, if you're wearing armor, it gives you a protective number of points that it doesn't hurt you physically. But opposed to the national-based LARP game that we used to be involved with, it's not as simple to fix armor as standing around in the middle of a field tapping yourself on the shoulder, which is kind of lame. You actually have to take it to a smith, to somebody with a forge or some other version of that, and actually have it repaired. And whenever armor breaks, whenever anything breaks in the system, it loses one of its points. And after a certain period, it has so many times that you can repair it, and then it is broken, unless you can have somebody that can repair it in other ways. So those are all the points. We have our costume / armor rating system here. For the most part, it's pretty simple to follow, fairly cut and dry. Not very particular on necessarily how good everything looks. We want people to look as good as possible for the game, to keep up appearances, to have awesome pictures and things like that. But we're not going to be super picky on it. Basically, what I want to do is find ways to promote people wearing high quality costuming and armor and things of that nature. So costuming actually adds body. It adds up to 10 body points, which is pretty cool. And then you can wear up to 40 armor points depending on if you have enough skills to do so and whatnot. And that can go even higher depending on magical items and things of that nature. And the armor, we're not using particular point values for what type of armor it is. So it doesn't matter if it's leather, chainmail, or plate mail. If it covers one of the body areas as listed on the form, it gives you 5 points if it looks good and it is made of appropriate materials. If it doesn't look so great, but it is covered up in such ways and it feels like armor, we'll still give it to you, but you'll only get 2 points for that area. And if you don't have any armor on that area, you don't have any armor. It's fine, all good. But yeah, it's a lot harder to fix armor. It's a lot easier to destroy armor, but it is definitely worthwhile to have that cushion. We don't want it to be so... I wanted to scale the damage numbers back from the national base game we used to play, because they used to be very, very high and it took forever and it was very crunchy. This combat's going to hopefully feel a lot faster and more fluid, but at the same time it's going to be a little more frantic and a little scarier, hopefully. We'll see. I'm hoping to play test soon, so we'll see how that goes. Moving on, We got the lineages, their costume requirements, their basic descriptions. I'm not having any fluff in the rulebook, so I'm not talking about how the elves are different from the dwarves or things like that. Most people in a fantasy-based setting understand all of those concepts easily, and I don't want to get caught up in a whole, well, this is how elven babies are born, and this is how dwarven. No, I don't want to get into that. How players role play that, if they choose that they want to build their own specific culture within the lineage, I'm fine with. Each government for those lineages is going to be set, but that's information to find out in game. So why fill all that stuff into the rule book? It's not a lore book; it is a rule book. Leaving it at that. Next, we got the categories themselves. And I just realized that me making that addition there changes all of that. Shoot. That's okay. I'll readjust all of the formatting later. So we have all of our category lists. So first the lineage, first the general list right here, body, stamina, and wear armor. You can buy more body, you can buy more stamina, but it goes up exponentially. Wear armor costs 4 points. Unless you're of the dwarven lineage, then it costs you 3. And then each of the lineages has its own list of skills that cost them cheaper, and their own immunities and resistances and things of that nature. I think I did a fairly good job balancing it. Each lineage has the same number of skills possible. The only difference is humans, and normally in most games humans don't have any additional skills. I'm not a fan of that. So humans get firearms. They have the ability to learn them innately. They're the only lineage that can do so. Everybody else has to train up in science and things of that nature in order to be able to use them and fix them and build them. So for some reason, humans are the science guys. There's plot reasons behind that, but I'll leave that to the game. So yeah, kinfolk, they're the only ones that are allowed to have claws. The only difference with that is there are probably going to be spells that add claws, so we'll see how that goes. Orc is a lineage. I at one point had them as half-bloods or half-breeds, because they were going to be combinations of like goblins and orcs, because at the beginning of the game it was going to be goblins and orcs were the main living antagonist groups, but I decided that's a lot of green. I wanted to vary the coloration and everything. So orcs are now primarily a PC lineage. Goblins are an NPC monster type that is always hassling the PCs, as well as gnolls and lizard folk is the plan, and undead, because you can't run games without undead. So then after all the lineages, we go into the different combat groupings. We have magic, we have direct combat, we have group combat, basically taking a hint from 5e, rather than having you need to attack somebody in the back to deal additional damage. Group combat, if you're more of an opportunist, you are able to fight better whenever you have an additional person attacking the same creature as you. Very easy to follow, a lot easier to marshal throughout. Unarmed combat, so if you want to punch people in the face or use claws, you can do that. And then we get into our more skill-based / guild-based groups. So thievery, of course, a Thieves Guild, merchant, a merchant's guild, research, or sorry, academic, which has research and medical training, and then craftsman, which has the building of stuff, of course. Then we went into the skills. Fix the formatting slightly there. Went through all the skills, and for a majority of them, we have their full descriptions, their full costs. There, you can see like fighting prowess here. This symbol means that it has prerequisites that are necessary. Their cost, their stamina cost, and what restrictions are on them. So each one of those is listed. Some of them reference other points, so I did my best to have, like here, see proficiency on page blah for more information. I tried to have that for a bunch of the different skills. Then after the skill list, we have another big list, all the conditions that happen in the game. So conditions are set things. They are rules based, and they're not necessarily they're definitions for ways things work. For example, the battle condition is there's a fight going on and for up to a minute afterwards. So there are certain skills that last for the duration of a battle. And so we need to clearly define that so that people can't say, well, I didn't think the battle was over, this, that, and the other thing. So we clearly defined it. Conditions are also effects that can happen on to characters like Berserk and Bleed and Broken and Charmed. But then we get into other things. For example, the Dead condition. This is something that happens. It's not necessarily going to be a spell effect or an effect that happens to your character. It might be something that happens after a count. So if you are dying, that lasts for a certain duration. After you hit that duration, you then enter the dead condition, and that might have a timer, which it does, 5 minutes or until removed. And then after that, you go and gain the spirit condition. Things of that nature. Let me see if there's anything else. Elemental is another condition. It's not in of itself anything that causes... It doesn't do anything different unless you are of a particular creature type that takes extra damage to these elements. At the beginning of the base game, there are no creatures that actually take additional elemental damage or things of that nature. I'm not starting with elementals. We're starting with goblins, gnolls, lizard folk, and undead. There might be a couple other creatures here and there. There might be certain undead that will take more damage from one thing or another. But overall, everything will take all the elemental types currently. Later on down the road, whenever we add more creatures, that might change. But over the course of the game, it's basically going to... we're not going to add creatures until we have good costuming for it and a good understanding of why they're there. Definitions of greater undead versus lesser undead. Basically, greater undead are going to be only created whenever there's a character that has lost all of their essence points. So all their lives are done. Maybe they had something on their spirit that turns them into a lich or a death knight or something of that nature. Or a large undead captures their body and turns them into one of these greater undead creatures. There's not going to be anything in the game to make a greater undead right off the bat. Harm and heal. The hidden effect. I've kind of come around on this one. Some people are not innately good at doing things in a LARP. one of the things at the national game we always said was be good or be good at it. Don't go around killing player characters and whatnot unless you yourself are good at being sneaky and things like that. There are some people that come to the game that they want their character to be good at things that they themselves are not. And I understand that. So I'm trying to get past the thought process that I kind of developed over the years of running the national-based game that I couldn't affect, and add skills like this that allow people to be sneaky without them physically being sneaky. Maybe they're getting older like myself and aren't as good at staying hidden or doing things or having manual dexterity or things of that nature. So just trying to be understanding and realize, hey, this is just a game. We're here to have fun. We can have skills in the game that let us be good at something without being good at it in real life. Knockback, knockdown, poisoned. Proficiency is an important one. If you aren't proficient in a weapon, you deal 1 point of damage with the weapon. If you aren't proficient with the shield, you take the damage whenever you get hit on the shield. Firearms, you cannot use them if you're not proficient. So lots of the skill list just says, hey, taking this skill gives you proficiency with these types of weapons. We want that cool epic moment where your buddy is down and you grab his sword from the ground and maybe you're not proficient with it, but you stab somebody. How are you planning to avoid meta with hidden? The same way that you kind of avoid the meta with a lot of things at LARP. There's going to be a gesture that people do whenever they show they're hidden. Most games do this one. So basically, like, your face is in your elbow, almost like you're holding a cape in front of your face. Hidden is one of those neat kind of skills that conditions that can be on an item or it can be on your person. So if it is on an item, you're going to take a yellow ribbon and tie it around it, and people need to pretend that, well, you don't need to show them that if you get searched. Simple enough. It is harder whenever you're RPing it at the actual game. I don't want to have a what do I see call at all in the game. So the nice part about that is if we don't have a what do I see call that people try to out of game figure out where people are, using it kind of as a radar type deal, because that's lame. If somebody calls out into the darkness, who goes there or something like that, if you are hidden, I'm going to have it be so out of game the hidden person can call out of game hidden blah blah blah. So yeah, you as a player might have to announce that you are hidden and are using that skill. It kind of breaks suspension of disbelief in certain aspects. But if they just straight up tell you that, then they aren't active. Then you don't actively go over there and necessarily search that area and look as closely. As opposed to if I hold my arm over my face like that and I don't say anything, they're still going to come over because they've seen the motion and things like that. You got to just basically let people play with that type deal. Hidden isn't really meant for player versus player stuff. It's more meant for versus NPCs. And I always want the NPCs to give the player characters the benefit of the doubt. Let people get the jump on you. Whether it is through natural stealth or using skills like that. more often than not, people use that skill when they're hiding, like, for their life. We use those similar skills in DL quite a bit. And they're fun. I enjoy them. It's good ways to hide in your cabin and feel like you have an out whenever big monsters are rushing in the room and whatnot. Hide under the bed. Things of that nature. If you have any other questions on that, feel free, ask away. Like in a field with Canadians. Yes, definitely like in a field with Canadians. And that's the thing, like, if you yourself are naturally good at hiding, you don't need the skill. Don't spend the points on it. Perfectly acceptable. There are some people that maybe aren't necessarily in the best of shape, but they still want to be kind of shady and hidden and whatnot. I'm fine with it. Let it be a thing. It's all good. Yeah, another big thing. Resist. Whenever I clarify this, I really like it. Resist happens whenever you use any skill that makes you resist damage or a condition, period. It only blocks what you can. There is none of this. If you block part of an attack, you block all of the attack. No, you just block that thing that you can resist. And the call for all of those things is resist. So if I'm an elf character and I'm fighting against someone and they have a spell, I'll answer your question in a second. If they have a spell that does damage and knocks you unconscious, does damage and puts you to sleep, whenever I get hit with that, if I have the resist sleep skill, I can call resist. They don't know if I resisted the damage or the sleep or both or neither. They don't need to know that. I need to know that, so I need to know my own skills. But that's an intrinsic portion of the game, is that we want people to have to memorize as little as possible for other characters' effects, while really knowing the effects that are on their own character sheet. Is there a system to change what you've bought? Currently, no. I am not opposed to it, but I want people to develop those abilities in game. So whether they make a magical ritual, very similar to the national base game that does that, fair. Maybe they will design a surgery that removes one physical skill that you know and replaces it with another. That's completely up to the players. I'm not opposed to it. It's totally fine. But there's no pre-built system to do that. There is no Spirit Forge. There is no, as was in the national game, the race change ritual, things of that nature. That's all stuff that people are going to have to come up with if that's something they want. The other option is, rather than having the players develop it, if it turns into something that a lot of people want, we can come up with a vote at one of the essentially symposium type events that we're going to have on a yearly basis. And we just add it to the rules. Good question, though. Let me see. What else? Yeah, so most of those other things, are all pretty self-explanatory. What is that emoji? Oh, that's a thumbs up. Cool. I wasn't sure if it was a middle finger or a thumbs up. The other item that I really like, other condition, is unblockable. It is akin to Massive from the national base game. It is not going to be used nearly as often, but PCs are going to get access to it in limited capacity. That's fair. Either or is fair. I really like it. I think it's going to be very stylistic. I think it'll be cool. I am going to have some voice effects, but it's not going to be necessarily as widespread as used at the national game. So, this is where I'm at. These are the other systems that need fleshed out for the rulebook. Combat is going to be the long slog of explaining all of the typical discussions that you have about combat. Pardon me. Sorry about that. No, that is specifically in there. A character may not negate these conditions by covering ears or pretending that they do not hear the condition. Straight up. Because that stuff's lame. Because it's not actually... well, some of the things are actually sound-based. So, like bardic music or curses or stuff like that. My gut, the reason I wanted to add it is because I plan on having music in the main congregation area. Based off of the way that the game world is based, it's going to be a mix of like instrumental bluegrass country stuff with some medieval instrumental music and things of that nature. But what I really want to do is I don't want fae or fairy creatures to be part of the game, part of like creatures that you fight. No Dark Carnival. No, I want the fae to be very much like kind of they are in most of the folklore. I want them to be small that creature you see for a split second out of the corner of your eye, following a lot of the fairy tales and the folklore. If you leave your shoes out at night, maybe they'll put a coin in your shoe, or if you leave a job half finished, they might fix it for you if they like you, and then if they hate you, they might curse you in some way. So the thought process is the music in the main area is going to be essentially a fae music box or something of that nature. And every once in a while there might be a voice effect that goes out through the actual area that is beneficial or not so beneficial to everybody that is there. Just them kind of poking fun at people whenever they randomly show up. And the thought process was recording random tracks that say, the voice descriptor and what effect goes out. So that way it's not even necessarily affected by plot. It just happens randomly on its own. So it might give everybody 2 stamina just for sitting there. Or it might make you hop on 1 foot for a bit. Stuff like that. I want it to be silly, but fun and flavorful. Yeah, like I was saying, the combat stuff, for the most part, is very, very... How can I put it? What about poopy pants? Anyway, the combat stuff is going to be fairly intuitive for anybody that's played a lightest touch boffer LARP. You're going to have damage calls, especially with bulk combat and things of that nature. Most of the damage calls are going to be a lot lower than the national base game, just because all of the things that upgrade damage for either weapons or claws, they're more highly restricted. Each category only has up to +3. And even then, you can only stack so many of them. So you can stack the direct combat and the group combat damage buffs, but you can't add that to the unarmed one. I am disappointed in my ice cream. Okay, I didn't know you had ice cream, so I am sorry you're disappointed in it. And I'm kind of jealous you have ice cream, but that's okay. So yeah, so most of the damage numbers are going to be a lot lower. And oh, well, that sucks. The damage numbers are going to be lower, but also the damage, the hit points of most characters is going to be lower, because as you keep buying more, they become more expensive. And also the amount of healing that goes out is going to be a lot lower, because there is no cantrip system the way that it worked in the national game. And it's kind of funny because most people that play 5e now will think cantrips, oh yeah, that's low damage stuff. How low for what? Sorry, the delay is probably making your question come out different, but are you asking for hit points or healing or damage with weapons? I will wait. You might be talking all of it. All three. Okay. So, first off to start, hit points. Characters start off with 5. You don't gain any unless you buy them with your character points. So already, it's not like you gain levels in a lineage or a class or anything like that. You have to buy the points. So buying 1 additional body costs 1 point. Buying 2 body, your second body point costs 2 points. Your third body point costs 3 points. So that grows exponentially. So buying a lot of hit points after a while becomes expensive. Same with stamina, by the way, which is used to do all of your skills. So if you are wearing a cool costume and it looks good, that gives you 10 additional body points on top of whatever you've already purchased. So that gives you a big boost, but that also promotes people to have good costuming. We're also going to have other costuming bonuses as well as boons for having better equipment. So if you have a latex or a plastodipt or a sword that looks like a sword and not like a phallic piece of foam covered in little girls' pantyhose, then you might get an additional boon. I don't want to talk about it yet because this is in direct opposition to some stuff that I've been seeing in the LARP community currently. And I don't want to unveil that until later on. So that's how hit points, body points are lower. Probably on average, you're going to see people, not including the costuming stuff, you're probably going to see people with 10, maybe 12, maybe 15. But you only have 60 character points to buy skills and stuff. That's fine. You're totally allowed to do that. Am I a little loud? I noticed I'm coming in the red a little bit more. Wow. Phrasing. Sorry about that. I am getting into the red on my screen here a little bit more often than not. But so yeah, that's how body points are going to be lower than the national based game, because as you attend... Oh, I'm fine. Okay, cool. As you attend the game, you'll get more character points, but it won't necessarily be worthwhile to buy more hit points. You might stay on a body point total. You might stay with 5 for the entirety of the game because you're more concerned about skills. You might decide to boost up more. That's fine. Armor, nobody starts off with armor at all. You have to buy the wear armor skill. And every time you buy it, you can wear up to 5 more points of armor. Nope, what? You can go ahead and answer that, but I'm going to keep talking about armor. Need more than 5. Yeah. I mean, most people do, but it's the trade-off. Do you want to be that merchant that sits around in town? Maybe you don't ever go and fight. You're fine with 5. Maybe you're a non-combat person. Totally fine with 5. 5's fine. Yeah. So yeah, armor. Armor is cool in the fact that, it blocks the damage from getting to your hit points. Hit points are easier to fix than armor. And you cannot refit armor in the middle of a field or a battle or something like that. You actually need to take it to a smith, to somebody with a forging skill to repair. And basic armor, the very lowest tier, is as soon as it is reduced in its armor points to 0, it's done. It's toast. It's gone. The augmented, which is the second tier, that's whenever you start getting into it can break so many times before it needs to be totally remade. So you might go and you might not be able to afford to have a bunch of armor, or you might go and get your armor fixed every time because you have your buddy in your group that can fix it. It's fine. It just costs resources. And if you are light on resources, then you need to figure out, how you're going to deal with that. So armor can go up to 40 points. However, you can buy the ability to wear up to 40 points of armor. But there are systems in the game that might take you over that. For example, maybe you develop a spell that gives you an animal's carapace, so you get natural armor for a duration until it goes away. So you get 20 points of armor from this spell. That's on top of physical armor if you are wearing it. I'm fine with that. That's cool. You cannot stack multiple spells on you, but I mean, it's a valid option. Other things that you might do, maybe you are proficient in surgery and you want to do a crazy hoopty experimental surgery where you take rare metals and Wolverine style open somebody up and put it, cover their bones with this metal, so they have armor points augmented into their actual body. Cool. We'll figure out a way to do it. I'm fine with it. I want people to be creative and come up with neat, cool stuff. It's why being open-ended on the crafting system is going to be super important. But I digress. Armor is going to be harder to maintain. It's not a simple tap, 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 hey, look, it's fixed. The other thing is that none of the items in the game have a time duration. I think we've seen it mostly with COVID, but time durations time durations at a LARP should be a thing of the past. It should either be hey, you have so many events and you get all of your cards punched that you have used for that event, or you go with the system that I'm going with, that items have a durability basically rating. So basic items as soon as they break the first time, they're done. They're toast. They're dust. Augmented ones, which are the second tier, they will already start off with a durability of 6. So if your armor breaks after a battle and you go get it repaired, you lose one of the durability on it. So it's down to 5, down to 4, down to 3, down to 2, down to 1. Oh, now it's dust. And then the mastery one will automatically have a durability of 12. But there are additional things, rare components, specialty items, special materials, maybe magically enhancing them, things of that nature, that you can change the durability so they'll last longer. Maybe you can make it so that they last forever. They'll still break, but they don't lose their durability. So there's that. So that's armor, that's items. Healing being restricted. There are 3 main types of healing in the game. There is your character specialization. Let me scroll to that right now, and I can show you. Conditions, skills. Specialization is a skill in the magic section. Okay, you can only take this skill once. This skill allows a character to choose one of the following elements as their specialization: fire, ice, earth, lightning, healing, and harming. Specialization allows a character to deal damage or heal using the verbal as listed an unlimited number of times per day. So it basically works like what's the name of it? The healing cantrip from the national game. It basically works like that. Every time you incant the spell incantation, basically, you can throw or touch cast 1 point of damage or healing. And you can do it an unlimited number of times per day. So it is basically your cantrip from D&D 5e, but I added healing and harming into the mixed. That is by design. So if you want to be a necromancer, you can. That's fine. And if you want to be a healer using this, you can. It's just a lot of talking. So instead of 10 elemental healing and touch casting, it is one heal one or one heal or however I word it. It'll probably change again multiple times. But right now I have by nature's light 1 heal. So instead of healing 10 points instantly and using a resource to do it, I'm making it so early game you can have this skill right at the very beginning of the game. And you can heal. It just takes you a lot of time to heal somebody until they're full. But with less body points, it's less of a big deal. And the trade-off for that is that backpacking someone similar to the national game, you can still do that. However, with armor being less and not being fixable as quickly, and with the amount of healing being limited to 1, 2, or 3, depending on your level and specialization, I found another typo. That severely limits it. So you're much more likely to accidentally get in the crossfire and then you get dropped yourself backpacking someone similar in the national game, because they're not getting 10 points every time. They're getting 1 or 2, and that might be 1 weapon swing. Where in the national game, 10 points of healing and saying 10 elemental healing so fast, you can get 30 points of healing into a person before they get hit again. This, you're only going to get 1 or 2 or 3, and they might be swinging 5 points of damage already. So it's going. I'm hoping that it is a little bit more frantic, a little bit more scary, but give people the resources for that. Now, there are other. The specialization is free, so if you chose healing, you can do that all day, every day, for forever. It doesn't matter, and it doesn't cost you any resources. But there are two other ways to heal in the game. The second way is through technically four, because you can have potions or some kind of healing that way, but that's also difficult and costs resources. The second way of healing is actually using a spell. You can use your energy to cast a spell that heals at a higher level, but you're using energy points, which could be used to hurt somebody or disable somebody or things of that nature. So I think we're going to see a lot less bigger healing and a lot more of this little piecemeal healing. A lot more of switching lines and making combat a little bit more dynamic rather than standing there and soaking a bunch of damage, which I really like the thought of. I think it'll be a lot more hectic, but a lot more fun. But basically, there's only going to be one, to start, healing spell. Energy is different from stamina, yes. Energy, you don't... energy fuels all magic, and it comes back similar to stamina, but it is different. The main reason for that is because all players have stamina, not all players will have energy. I might change that word to something that sounds more arcane, fun sounding than energy. But that's what we went a bunch of different directions on that previously. Mana and things of that nature. We landed on energy, but now it's not we, it's me. So I can change it to something that sounds a little bit better. But the way it'll work is very similar to... trying to think of a system that it's similar to. Basically, for each 1 point of energy that you put into the healing spell, you will create 5 points of healing. So if you want to heal somebody for 40 points of body, you need to pump 8 energy into the spell. But not only that, you have to prep your spells because you only have so much energy and there are only so many spells to start the game, and your character only knows so many spells. So it's a much different dynamic. Magic points, spell points. I got a lot of points. I don't know if you saw that list earlier, because it was a little bit before you started asking questions. Let me scroll up. Sorry if it's making people sick. So we have character points, which is your XP, which you spend on things. Yes, you're absolutely on the right page. Magic points, energy, mana, whatever you want to call it. That's basically what it is. So character points are used for buying skills and categories. Stamina points are used for doing physical things that your character does, like parrying, slaying, quarrying, and stuff. Sorry I came back so slow, Gil, but I don't want to make anybody sick. Energy points, that's all the magic stuff. Body points, body. Armor points, essence. Those are all my points, things. Yeah. Yep. So the other way that you can heal is through natural healing by doctors. Let me get to the academic category. Okay, so medical training augmentation, and medical training mastery. I have to thank Britt for listening to me ramble about this at work. But she played a doctor at one of the games that we quote unquote used to play. I think for the most part it's used to play. And do kinfolk use regular doctors? They can. There's no reason not to. Doctors are going to be important for the game because energy, spell points are going to be much more of a commodity. So you're not necessarily going to have you're not going to have enough spells to get rid of status effects on characters in base combat. You're going to need to have your doctor travel with you or bring a doctor after a battle to basically fix people up, because they remove conditions and negative effects and heal people by stamina instead of magic. And it just takes more time, but it is less stamina. So medical training, the base version, you can stabilize dead or you can stabilize dying characters, and you can heal characters through taking time. Bucket doctor. Yeah. I mean, everybody should have one. Honestly, in a group, it's going to be very important. So basically I have it that it'll take 5 minutes for the doctor to work on you, and there should be role play involved. It shouldn't be tapping. It shouldn't be anything like lesser like that. No, you should be pulling out bandages from a bag. You should, there's all kinds of things that people had, phys reps that they had at DL that I think were really, really cool and should be utilized. But if you're bleeding, dying on the ground, you should role play being in pain and the doctor trying to fix you. That was something that DL does really, really well. So basic medical training, you can stabilize dying people and you can heal characters. It just takes time. But that healing might be faster than, doing the incantation from the specialization. It's all going to depend on how good the doctor is and if they have any items that speed up their processes. So then whenever you get to medical training augmentation, that's whenever it takes 5 minutes to remove one of the conditions listed. So dazed, sleeping, slowed, weakness. So if people are really messed up on the battlefield, I'm cutting timers out. So if you're sleeping through magical means and whatnot, you might just not wake up. You might be Rip Van Winkle. I've basically made it so that all of the conditions, for the most part, are timed until they're removed, not necessarily 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, because that's super confusing. Nobody wants to memorize that list. I mean, Gil and I wanted to memorize that list, but the average player doesn't want to memorize this huge list of, okay, well, this lasts 5 minutes, this lasts 10 minutes, this lasts 8 minutes whenever you're standing on your head, this lasts whenever it's line of sight. No. You either have the effect, you don't have the effect. For the most part, that's it. Yeah, well, people with adrenaline, whenever your blood's pumping, you count faster. It totally happens. So medical training augmentation gets rid of those 4 effects. I might have it that it actually, and increase in healing value. So yeah, I already put it in there. So if you have medical training augmentation, you heal people faster. Instead of 1 point every minute or something like that, maybe it's 5 points or something. I haven't narrowed it down to all of the numeric values 100% yet, just because we need to play test it a little bit before getting into that. And then whenever you get to medical training mastery, you can remove the bleed, poisoned, and silenced conditions, and you increase the value of your healing. Now I have to be clear, the stamina cost for these skills is just to remove the conditions. So if you are using if you have medical training mastery and you're just trying to heal someone, you do the increased in healing value because you have mastery, but it only costs you 1 stamina because you're just healing someone. You're not removing one of these higher tiered effects. That might be a little confusing, but I'll clarify that in the write-up. And then you have surgery. If you get medical training mastery and I think Research Guild member, you can take the surgery skill. You can do a surgery. It requires a percentile dice roll to see if your surgery is effective or ineffective or causes somebody to start bleeding out and dying. But if you do a surgery on a character, it has a certain duration, and it will get rid of any condition or any and all conditions that a medical trained person can get rid of and heal that character to full. But there's risks towards that. And in addition, if you have the surgery skill, you can, like I already said, you can do an experimental surgery to, I don't know, graft like a animal claw to somebody's arm, or I don't know, do all kinds of weird stuff. I want the players to come up with it. I think it's super cool. But yeah, so that's that's the long-winded why combat's going to be different. Another thing is I'm planning on having. Let me get down to it. Hopefully I didn't make Gil throw up again. So the initial question you asked was, yeah, construct arm would be super cool, but that would be technology. That wouldn't be strictly surgery. But it's totally fair. And there, if you want to build yourself a Winter Soldier arm, you could do it in this system, and I'm totally down for that. So you were asking why body and armor and all that stuff would be different. That's my super long-winded explanation of that. So going on in other stuff in combat, I need to discuss how spells work with physical combat and things of that nature. I believe I want to have a flurry rule, just because I think I don't want the game to be the I move super fast with my ultralight weapon and barely graze your shin and do damage. I want it to feel a little bit more. I want there to be less weapon strikes and less damage. All the numbers to be way lower, but I want the combats to feel faster. I know that's counterintuitive, but I think there's going to be a lot less of the I can tank this fight with all these changes. The other super big change to the national game is there aren't spell protectives. If you throw a spell, 98% chance that it's going to work. And if you know the creature's lineages that you're fighting, it's almost like 99% chance that it's going to work. Each lineage, for the most part, has some kind of condition that they can resist or are immune to. Binding effects, entangling effects, as it's called, in this are going to be super powerful, yet there's a lot more ways to get out of them. There's a strength skill that people can rip themselves out of entangled effects and rip other people out of entangled effects. The Hofflin can actually be immune to entangle effects. And there is Escape Artist, which is a skill that in the Thievery tree category that makes it so that you can get out of similar effects. So while those spells are going to be fairly common, they're also going to be fairly easy to get out of too. Yeah, I think I want to have a three attack flurry rule, but I'm not 100% on that. Yeah, and then so the magic system, I'm only going to have, I'm thinking 10 or 12 spells that are part of the rulebook. There's going to be the elemental damage spell. There's going to be a healing spell. There's going to be a harming spell. And then most of the condition-based spells. After that, it's really up to what people decide they want to make and then want to share it. And I'll get into that more in the research and crafting sections. And actually the guild section as well. All good. So yeah, like I said, the magic system is going to be, it is not level tiered. It is how much energy the spell costs to cast. For the most part, most spells are going to be 1 energy to cast. But the more powerful things, let's say you want to destroy somebody's armor. Well, that's pretty big and hoopty with this base system. So it's going to be a little more expensive. And we'll do points adjustments and things of that nature. But to start off, I'm going to start it off with a very, very basic spell list. And every time you buy an energy point, you can choose one of those spells from the spell list that your character learns. And then after that, once you buy all the spells that are in the rulebook, you have to create your own. Or learn some off of other players. And that's where the enchanting, crafting tree is useful. Because if you get a scroll of a spell that your character doesn't know, you can add it to your spellbook by burning the scroll. The spells that you know are added directly to your character sheet. It's not like there's a spellbook rep you have to carry around or anything. If you want to for roleplay reasons, totally cool. I'm down. Do it. Maybe you can make, well, I'll get into that in crafting, but maybe you'll make a spellbook rep that either gives you energy or lets you get energy back at a faster rate or something of that nature. Maybe that's why you have spellbooks. I don't know. It's up to the players. Make it cool. But you actually have to prep your spells. Some people will be upset about that. I kind of like it. Currencies. I have multiple different types of currency. There's going to be prep spells. Prep spells are very much easier to keep track of, especially at much lower levels. It's not like you're buying a spell tree in the national base game. Yeah, some people might not like it. I get it. We'll see. I think with the lower number of spells possible in the game, and the higher number of spells possible to be created, it's going to be very dynamic. But without, well, I mean, the right stuff is subjective. Here, let me give you a a thing that I've been thinking in my brain meets. So let's say that let's say you're playing a character named Leyland, who is a druid and has a pretend squirrel companion, and you are used to gathering resources in the woods. And you're like, hey, I want to develop a spell where my squirrel companion goes and gathers these resources for me. So I don't have to spend the half hour out in the woods walking around. I can just cast this spell and do it. I say, okay, fine. Let's look at your character sheet. You already have gathering on it. You already have energy, and you have magical research or something like that. So basically, I am totally fine with you creating the spell that essentially lets your animal friend go and gather resources for you at the cost of 1 energy, to go and they spend their half hour doing this rather than you walking around in the woods, and you get resources. There can be all kinds of spells similar to that have 0 combat capabilities, and you might think that it's not useful, but it could be super useful for you. I want that kind of dynamic magic that's not necessarily, I have to prepare this unparalyzed spell and we don't know if we're running into people that are gonna get paralyzed. The other nice thing that might help you and feel a little more comfortable with this, whenever you prep a spell that causes a condition, you get both. So, for example, let's say you have a spell that entangles a person's foot. The spell using that spell can also remove the entangle condition from somebody else. So instead of if you can cast the spell to cause the effect, you also could cast the spell to remove the effect. So if you are good with let's say you want to get rid of a sleep effect on somebody. If you already had a sleep spell prepared, you can remove the sleep spell. That kind of thing. Also, without there being spell protectives, like there is no shield magic. There is no reflect magic. There is no magic armor. There's none of that kind of stuff. Because what innately happens is whenever you had those spells, of course you had one of those up. Of course you did. And it's one of those things that if those kind of effects aren't in the game, pardon me, if those kind of effects aren't in the game, then people can't cheat and say they had them whenever they didn't, and things of that nature. Whether they can be developed later in the game, that'll all depend on you heard the giant sneeze, sorry. That all depends on what the people want. If people decide that they want spell protectives in the game, and it's something that people vote on and think is a good idea, I'll have to go with it. I don't necessarily think it's the best move for the game, but I'm not opposed to listening to the majority of people. 864 people need a sleep spell cast on them. Why 864? But yeah, so there's that. That's basically the magic system. Is you have energy points, you have to know a spell to cast a spell, you have to prep your spells, things of that nature. Currency. So the main currency are going to be the leaves. Oh, that's how many are ahead of me in the queue. Oh, for that game, the New Worlds game. Yeah. Sorry, man. So the main currency are leaves. I'm looking for someone still currently that can do page layouts to basically I need somebody to make it so that whenever a page prints out double-sided that they overlay properly on both sides, because I already have my artist ready to work on the actual graphics for the leaves. I want one side to actually look like a strange colored leaf that is alchemically treated, and the other side is going to have the game's logo and basically tag information on it, but still some of that coloration on the back. I think they're going to be super cool. I really like the idea of paper currency. DL uses it to good effect. You only started playing it yesterday and have 24 hours. Okay. Understandable. You must be very addicted to the game. It must be pretty good. That's cool. But yeah, I really like the idea of the paper currency that we saw in DL and DR. It's a lot cheaper, and I really don't want to mint thousands of coins for thousands of dollars for a game just starting out. The paper currency, I think, works a lot better. I'm not creating like an economy per se of what items cost, because people are going to decide what items they are making and whatnot. The cricket could help. My problem is that I've seen tutorials on using the cricket to cut and whatnot, but I don't know how it would necessarily work with the art, and that's my concern, because I don't know how the file system works on it, and that just makes me concerned. But yeah, so the paper bills I really like the thought of. I want to have 3 different leaf styles so they all look different. They have different markings on them and whatnot. But I have this paper called Right in the Rain, and it is weather resistant. It's the same stuff they use for DL, I believe. So it doesn't get ruined in the water. And I just like the idea of, the elves have created this money system. Okay. Yeah, we'll see. That's the problem. Like, I can't do the art until I get the layout for the borders of the leaves. So I was thinking of hiring somebody on Fiverr if I can't find somebody to do it. But the problem is finding a person that's willing to do that, and like what would be the right job title. It's very difficult for me to look on there. So I'm still looking. I know there are a couple artists that could do it, but I'd hate to waste their time to do something that kind of mundane. But we'll see. So part of the cool thing about the currency that I'm really, really liking the thought of is players can, once per event, if they have collected 100 leaves, either in the bank system or physical, or a combination of both, they can turn in 100 leaves to buy one. How thick is the weather resistant paper? It's like cardstock. Yeah, we're probably gonna have to get a color printer for that. And I think it has to be inkjet. I don't think it can be laser. I think we'll have to talk about it, but that was one thing I was going to buy with the resources that come in from the LARP stuff. But so yeah, basically the thought process is you can turn in 100 leaves. I know, but they've gotten a little better. You can turn in 100 leaves to buy 1 character point each event. Now, this is tied to your attendance. So, for example, let's say that each player every event gets 4 character points just for showing up to the event. They are going to be allowed to get 4 additional character points, either A, by purchasing them at a particular cost. I'm not sure how much yet. Pardon me one moment. Sorry, school district stuff. And now that comes through. Sorry. Anyway, so you get 4 CP just for showing up to the event. You can buy an additional 4. How can you buy them? Either real money, basically donation for CP. Time, you can do a 4-hour NPC shift during the event to buy one of them, given your time. Donations, basically we'll keep a list of like almost like goblin points from the national game that you can use to put towards these, or you can buy one of these with 100 leaves. There's other ways that I was thinking of doing this too. If your costume and armor and your weapons are at our max level, so that your costuming is at a high standard, maybe you get one of those for free every single event. The Master of Coin must be named. Do I want to know? Anyway, so it's bad. I just figured that out. That is pretty funny. I could hear Nay cackling from the other room. Actually, I got it now. So yeah, if you're in costume and looking awesome and you're using a weapon that doesn't look like a little girl pantyhose commercial, then as a bonus for that, for making our game look awesome, then maybe you get one of those 4 CP for free every event. And the other thing, Britt and I were talking about it, is the people that decorate their buildings and make... Aw, that's bad. But if you make your in-game area look cool, what's the benefit for you? She went to a lot of trouble to make sure that, the library area and the doctor area in our cabin, whenever we were playing it at DL, looked super awesome. But what do you benefit from that? Well, the thought process is maybe if you create a space that is good for taking pictures and things of that nature, and good for crafting or something of that nature, and make it publicly available for other characters and for taking pictures so we can advertise for the game. Maybe if you show us that and it is readily accessible, maybe you get one of those CP paid for. I'm not opposed to people. I don't want the game to ever be pay to win. I don't mind people being able to donate, which helps the game and getting more character points, but I need it to be tied to the player's attendance and have it so there are multiple ways to pay for those character points other than just straight money. Because I want people, if they want to put time and effort into the game and build it up and make it a better place, that is more important to me than getting a couple extra bucks. Because while the money is nice for building up at this beginning stage where things are kind of, rough and tumble, later on that's not going to necessarily be an issue. Any money that we make for this game over our production and over paying, hopefully eventually paying our staff members and, getting the next event paid for and things of that nature. I'm working on it. We're going to be a nonprofit organization. So all that money that is extra, I want to go towards a good cause. We're talking about doing donations to MS research and to do other things like that. So I was actually going to ask Gil if he would look into different groups to make sure that we don't send money to people that don't deserve it. But there are a couple different causes that we're pretty passionate about. MS, trying to think of the thing and the stuff. We have a lot of family issues. I'll put it that way. So we if we can start donating to some really good causes and helping out in some way, I think it would be really cool. And that's the goal of the thing. Alzheimer's, yeah. Alzheimer's, heart disease. Yeah. So that's the end goal. We're not looking to make a ton of money. I will never live off of this, and that's never the intention. Would I like to, get some money back from all the time and effort and, money I already put in on my own? Yeah, sure. I'd like to get some payback on that. But it's never about making a buck for me. It's going to be about doing other stuff and kind of trying to pay it forward. And that's the plan. Gil says we can build big goofy props like PV shaped swords. Then we can reward donations with a rep like cosmetics. No, I mean, my ultimate intention is to... there you go. There you go. I see where... I'm smelling what you're stepping in. No, my goal is to have most of the reps for NPC Shack eventually be Epic Armory, hybrids, or latex and things of that nature. I want to have each of the items coded, either barcoded or marked. So one of the nice things is with the new system is at the national game we had a whole heck of a lot of different monster types. This game we're going to have 4 to start. So you might, whenever you come in for your shift or whenever you NPC, you might sign out the same weapon set and costuming for the entirety of your NPC shift, and then come back in, turn it in, show us that it is still in good condition, we sign off, done. And then we can manage to make sure that we're not putting unsafe weapons out. B, we're making sure that we disinfect all of our masks and all of our costuming to make sure that it is safe for other people to use. No makeup, because makeup gives people pink eye. A lot. We never had an issue with it at that I was aware of previously, but there are some times where, the group makeup sponge is pretty gross. So being a little bit more careful in regards to that. So yeah, that went on a long thing about character points, but back currency. So leaves, you can turn in 100 per event to buy one of your character points for that weekend, or you can save up 500 and get an additional essence point. Essentially, buy an extra life, because I think that's cool. I think the whole thought process behind the leaves is they're going to have some kind of natural life energy in them, so that's why you're basically turning them in. It's almost like you are absorbing them, and that's part of the reason why the elves use them as a currency, as a commodity, because they're useful for that kind of thing. I think it's cool. Must rob everybody to become immortal. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, or secret option B, you could take the skills that get you a bunch of free money at the beginning of every event. Just stockpile it. But that's part of the use of the guild system. We'll get to that. And robbing people in this game is a lot less detrimental to the person you're robbing. Unless you murder them, and then, yeah. So, yeah, the leaves are currency number 1. I'll be a caterpillar that eats everyone else's. That's actually kind of cool. A caterpillar kinfolk. Nom, nom, nom. Okay. So that's currency number 1. Currency number 2 are the resources, and that's all the stuff that you gather for crafting and whatnot. We made a crafting list here on stream one of the days. I think it was whenever I was still on Twitch. The crafting list is pretty cool. We have a bunch of good ideas for what each of the rare items do. But basically there's 3 tiers of currency, of resource currency. There's the basic version that it is used on all 3 of the crafting skills. Technically 4 of the crafting skills. Then there is the basic crafting skill, or crafting resource for each of the skills. So there's an alchemy one, a forging one, and an enchanting one. Caterpillars don't have claws, though. At best, you have poison sting. That's fair. So yeah, there's one for each of those, and then there are 5 or 6 rare components for each of the crafting types. If you want to make basic items, you just need the basic rough resources. If you want to make something of the augmented tier, you need one of the base for those particular crafting abilities. And then if you want to make a mastery tier one, then you need at least one of the rare components, or more of the other 2. The rare components are going to let people build cool, crazy, wonky stuff. And the nice part about the system is that we'll get into that in the research and the crafting section. But basically, you can customize it. You can build stuff that you want, and as long as we have discourse on an out-of-game level through email, as long as I know it's coming beforehand, phrasing, as long as I know what style of creation you're trying to make, basically ahead of time, I can then plan. And there comes the cackle from the other room. I can basically plan on costs for components and things like that. And don't say rare component. Okay. Well, we have a pretty good system for the rare component drop rate, but I'm sorry that that's a thing. But yeah, so basically it's going to be, what's the term that some of the newfangled LARP people are talking about? Basically, it's going to be a back and forth dialogue between the players and staff to come up with a cost on how much it will make to make this new item. And then basically it turns into a playtest period of, you can make the new item, but you can't sell it to other people. You can't teach other people how to make it until it's approved by the group. Dynamite. Yeah, people can make dynamite. I don't care. So that's currency number 2. Currency number 3 are essence points. Your lives. You want to dynamic. Dynamic works too. Basically, if you are crafting things, maybe you want to make a sword that is your legendary blade that you want to pass down whenever your character is dead, and it does a cool, super, uber great thing. Maybe it will require you to give up one of your life points, your essence, in order to make it. Maybe you're trying to make a ritual that does things like Nay was talking about, like to respend all of your character points, like a spirit forge. Maybe that requires you to burn one of your essence points because you're burning away your old life and building it new. I don't know. I'm cool with that. But I want the players to come up with this kind of stuff. So the thought process of what you can do with your essence points is super cool. And also, if you want to be a bad guy, maybe you can find a way to use other people's essence points. Not necessarily player characters, but NPCs. That might be super cool. I think I'd have a problem if people tried to do it with PC stuff. I guess that comes to PvP stuff that I should discuss. Whenever you get involved with PvP, you cannot steal people's physical items. Their item tagged, anything like that. So their armor, their weapons, their anything they've crafted or their friends have crafted for them or things of that nature, you can't just up and take. The only things you can steal and search from player characters is going to be leaves and resources. So if you steal all their resources before they make their uber boober super cool sword, that's fair game. After they make their cool thing, it's basically I think it's the WoW term, it's tied to account or something like that. So until their character dies, and even sometimes then, those items are theirs. They if it's base tier stuff, armor, shield, whatnot, I mean, they keep their fizz reps, and you just take the tag and you can retag it after their character is permanently dead. But like magic items and what? Okay. But whenever it comes to magic items that they build, bind or pick up, bind on pickup. Yeah, basically that. But after a character permanently dies, they lose all their essence points. Any of those items then are free for other players to claim. Now, the character is in charge of repping all of these items. So the new player that gets the item, they don't get to steal this person's sword, or bind to account would mean any of their characters could use it. Oh, okay. No, I don't want it to be that. Well, we're only allowing two. Yeah. No, it's bind to character, basically. But anyway, if a character dies, you can take the tags, but you aren't taking their physical sword or shield or anything like that. That's not our property, the game's property. We're never going to force people to do something like that. But then the player that takes it has to try to phys rep it as closely as possible. And that's something that will work out. But that's the nice part. We're not going to put out a bunch of magic items. We're not going to put out magic items that last a long time. For the most part, all of the crafting is going to be up to the players. And that means that the players can build their own economy, determine what it costs to, do things. How much does it cost for an armor smith to fix your armor? It doesn't cost them any resources, but maybe they'll charge you 1 leaf. Maybe they'll charge you 2, 3. At that point, it'll be up to the players themselves to determine, okay, well, maybe I pick up these skills because it's too expensive to go to these other people. Maybe some people are very nice and do that stuff for free. Basically, I want the players to form the community and figure out what they need and what they want and build as they go. So that's the plan. So those are your 3 currency types: your resources, your leaves, and your essence. Hey, I don't want to promote any of that kind of business at the game, because even though we're going to be an 18 and up game, that shouldn't be occurring at a game. I'm not down for that. Especially if somebody comes into your room randomly to kill you in your sleep and things are going on. Not cool, man. Some people are there to play a game. So wait till after. Now, if people want to trade that afterwards, that's not my business and it's not real money. So probably shouldn't do that, but not my business. Yeah. Okay. Research. There are a bunch of different research skills. The way I have it worded in most of the skills is you get to ask plot staff 3 yes or no questions about whatever you're researching. It's very clear what the research skill is doing. So not being real money would make it legal. Well, that's still none of my business. If you do it after game, that's fine. That's on you. So the research skills, you can ask 3 yes or no questions that plot will answer truthfully and honestly to the best of their knowledge. All of these are based off of the actual, whatever the actual skill is. So if you have, let's take a look at the list, shall we? Whoa. A lot of stuff, guys. A lot of stuff. Okay, so analysis. Character may gain information on a specific item. So that might be historic information. That might be how it was made roughly. That might be what resources it took to make it. That might be where it was hidden, where it was found, stuff like that. You get it costs 1 stamina. You ask 3 yes or no questions, and that is in regards to the current goings on in regards to it. So if it is an item on a module and you have 3 thought processes, like, hey, there's this weird obelisk and it looks like it turns. Maybe one of my questions is this a puzzle of some sort? Yes, clearly. But the plot staff person would answer your yes or no question. So basically, you can ask those questions in regards to that item. If there's a particular item that you're going to be interacting with, before an event, you should email us, and then maybe we'll have a write-up in regards to what that item is, what it does. Instead of allowing you to ask questions, maybe it will give you more information in regards to it. Maybe we'll tell you that it's nothing super special, so don't even bother wasting the ST. The other nice thing is that these skills only cost you stamina if we give you information. So if we're horrible people and we're super busy, we might tell you, we're sorry, it's nothing that is important in regards to what's going on right now. Don't remove the ST from your character sheet. Consultation is very similar in the fact that you gain a hint or a reduction in the difficulty of a puzzle. I kind of laid that out in the skill itself. Maybe it's one of those real complex nail puzzles and you're just not getting it. Maybe we trade it out for an easier puzzle. Basically, if we're going to use puzzles on a module, we should have either a secondary puzzle there with us if somebody's planning on using this skill, or we turn it into a time duration thing. So you role play, you're fumbling with it, and you do a counter of, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever the plot marshal at that time says. And then at the end of it, you complete it, because maybe your character is super good at puzzles, but you're not. Or it's a super complex puzzle and you're just not getting it, and you're frustrated and you just feel like spending stamina to be done with it. Perfectly acceptable. We don't want to totally ruin people's day over a puzzle. So I think they're fun, but I'm not necessarily good at them. So I like using them, but I can understand where some people would get frustrated with that kind of stuff. Deduction. It is information on a specific person. So if you're using it on a PC, you better have questions that can easily be answered by stuff that plot staff knows, because more likely than not, they're not going to give you an answer. Maybe you ask what their lineage is. If they know the answer, they'll tell it to you. They might not. They'll probably refund your ST if they don't. But this is one of the ways that you can find out that somebody is disguised. You can ask a yes or no question that might get you more information in regards to that. But this is much more useful against specific people that you might interact with. Perhaps it is the king of the humans. Perhaps it is some other NPC that you've interacted with that you want to kind of deduce more information. Think of it very much like a Sherlock Holmes. I'm analyzing the person and deducing what kind of builds their character and whatnot. Historical research. Super important to get to us before an event, so we make sure that all of that information is cohesive. But for the most part, these questions should be based off of the history in regards to whatever is occurring at the time or during the event. We don't promise that the information is 100% accurate for ongoing game history, unless it's something that you've told us that you've planned on researching. So doing research on things such as where the gnolls came from and why they act the way they do, or things like that. That's stuff that we can plan ahead of time and give you a write-up on. Super important. I think it's cool though. Magical research. That is basically you want to research things that have already been made via enchanting, but you don't necessarily understand how they work. Maybe traps during a module that are magically handled. We don't have a trap system in the game. I'm more talking, say, a puzzle with statues that you have to place them in a certain location or things of that nature. Not actual physical, like damaging traps, but more things played by NPCs. And you can use magical research to think about magic items, how magic works in the world, things of that nature. It's also a good way to come up with new spells and things like that without as much trial and error. Scientific research. Things based on technology. We haven't really got into much of that, but firearms are a thing. Explosives could be a thing. There could be any number of scientific research would be used to help you develop one of the experimental surgeries, things of that nature. So you can ask questions in regards to that, or do research based off of stuff that you've seen in game. And then search, that is a physical location, so a mod site, things of that nature. Perhaps one of the questions might be, hey, we fought 3 gnolls here. Looking around, do I think that those were all the gnolls that were in this encampment based off footprints? Yes or no? Okay, looking at this physical location, do I believe there would be a treasure chest hidden somewhere around here? Yes or no? Because, I mean, you can follow tracks. You can see if somebody, like, stopped and tried to hide something under a building or whatnot, if you were really good at that. I mean, people do that in real life. Yeah, things like that. So that's basically how the research skills are going to work. We very much would prefer it if people got their thought processes to us ahead of time, things they wanted to research, but it doesn't always work that way. So we'll do our best to accommodate, but we want to give people the resources to learn about the game world itself. Crafting, I already kind of went over it whenever I was talking about the currencies. So basically players can make almost whatever they want. You just kind of need to come to us beforehand and give us an idea of what you're going for. But all the different weapon tags and things of that nature are going to be things that the players have to make on their own. Whenever it comes to potions and things of that nature, you might need to have the spells ahead of time to make the potions. Things of that nature. Medical training I already went over. Surgery, science, and technology. That is very much... technology and science are basically going to be players using the already created crafting systems and blending them together. So perhaps making a firearm that shoots magic bullets. Maybe creating a surgery to... I'm going to sneeze again. Sorry about that. Maybe it's making a surgery that, I don't know, takes wolf parts from normal wolves and grafts them onto a person. Do you want to be the person that creates lycanthropy in the game world? But things like that. Things that people want to see in the game and want to kind of develop on their own, I'm totally cool with. Yet again, we might need to tweak costs and things as we go. But overall, we're going to have a playtest period first, and then the players are going to have to take the information they found during the playtest period and explain it to all the players in the game, and then it gets a vote. Because we want everybody to be involved in... basically, the community is going to be involved in building the game up. I think it's cool. Guilds and governments. This is going to work very similarly to the Dead Legends Dystopia Rising kind of thought process. but in a whole new light. Instead of having these secret organizations, it's going to be abundantly clear what these guilds and governments are. If you, whatever lineage you are, you instantly can interact with the folder based off of your character's lineage. That is the government for whatever lineage you are. It doesn't matter if you started the game as part of that culture or not. You kind of already have an in, you can understand this stuff. Those governments are going to have certain jobs that they're going to ask of their people. And there are going to be modules that are listed in the folder, and they're going to have certain time frames. And it's not going to be this kind of random thought process. No, you can sign your name. If you are of that lineage, you can sign your name next to that module. And at that time, in that main building where everybody kind of hangs out, whether it's a tavern or whatnot, somebody will come and lead those people on a module. It's great for people that are not confident in going out and finding adventure on their own, and not sure of the game world and not sure of the people and things of that nature. So you can just go and interact with this. It's a great way to learn more about the game world by doing jobs for your lineage's government. Additionally, in some of the other categories, there are the guild skills. By buying that guild skill, you get access to that folder. Each of the guilds has a certain list of a certain number of items that they have for sale each event. Most of them are very, very basic, and they're going to be more expensive than it takes to make because they're a guild. They're trying to make money. But if you need something quickly, it's something you can do. These are the only shops that are really going to be in the game, so you have to be part of the guild to do so. So there's the Thieves Guild. There's the Research Guild. Let me go back up here. So we have the Thieves Guild. We have the Black Market skill, which that is normally illegal or stolen items that they sell. There is the Merchants Guild. There is the Research Guild. And there is the Crafting Guild. Makes perfect sense. So, the Crafting Guild is in charge of basically just making the items. So they are going to have the library of all of the blueprints that people make and turn into the guilds so that other crafters that are also part of the guild can make said items. So if you want to be the good guy player, that you created, let's say, the life potion. You want that item to be available to as many people as possible. You want to be the good guy. So you take your blueprint for your life potion and you sell it to the craft guild because you're a member, and they pay you X amount of leaves for it, and they put it into their records. And then any member that is part of the craft guild can pull up the blueprint for that and learn how to make it. So you can have your name attached to it. You could be, you can do whatever you want. Basically, whenever you make those blueprints, you can either hoard it for yourself, or you could sell it to this group, and then other people can access it. That way you don't have to have all these people researching the same thing, building the same thing, or you can. Either way is fine. That's fine, Nay. It's 11. I'm gonna finish up with this, and then I'm probably going to head to bed too. But have a good night. So yeah, that's basically what the Craft Guild is going to be in charge of. They are going to, they're mainly going to be selling resources to other crafters for closer to cost, so people can make more stuff. Notice in this list, there's harvesting and gathering. That's how you gain more resources. You aren't going to find those just randomly on monsters. You have to harvest it off of monsters, or you have to go out into the wilds and gather it yourself. The academic tree, we have the Research Guild. Very similar to the blueprints, maybe your character learns a vital part of information about the game world. You can write up in game, you can handwrite, or you can type it up and we'll make a cool rep for it. You can write up information about the game world in your character's view and turn it into the Research Guild, and we will bring all those documents with us to the game. And if people are members of the Research Guild, they can go through the previous records and see what people have already researched. So maybe they will gain some great insight off of something that you've already figured out and determine something else and add to it. I think it's super cool. It's very, very flavorful. And then not only that, but maybe somebody's looking for more information, but they aren't the academic type. So you could always go and say, well, hey, I can go search for the records for you for a fee or something like that. Knowledge is power. It's one of those things. I think it's super cool. So, but if you write an article or a document for the Research Guild, you will be paid for it. They will do their own research to see if it is factual. You can't put fake information in there unless your character doesn't know what's going on in regards to that. But out of game, we will go and we will double check and make sure that it fits the narrative as we are telling it, and make sure that, proper information goes in there. But that's part of the other research skills and whatnot. So yet again, we have not only can you make your own stuff and sell blueprints to the guild here, but up here, as you do research and you find out stuff about the game world, you can sell it to the guild, or you could sell information to other people. Ways to play the game without just being a combat monster. You can do all kinds of RP stuff and crafting stuff and not necessarily have to even lift a finger in a fight. Next, merchant category. All about supply and demand. So you need to know what people want and what people have, and you need to basically scatter that information around and whatnot. So almost all the skills here are about getting free resources or free money. Technically both, because holdings is you get free money at check-in. Supply is you get free resources at check-in. You get to choose what resources you get. So I think supply 1, you get all the basic resources, but at 2 and 3, you get the second tier resources. So you can choose alchemy or enchanting or forging, and you can stockpile those resources and sell them to a crafter. Maybe you're part of a group, so you get all of the supplies for your crafter to make stuff. The Merchants Guild, it's all about control of resources. So you can sell them resources in particular and make profit off of it, because they will pay you slightly more for it than you would necessarily get from other people. unless they already have enough of said resource or things of that nature. But basically, you can turn in rare resources to the guilds that they can then sell to other people for a much higher profit, things of that nature, if you aren't going to do it yourself. But yeah, they are basically the supply and demand gurus. And then the Thieves Guild. The Thieves Guild is all about bringing in illegal or stolen goods. So they will buy those kind of goods from players. But all of these guilds might have jobs that they send people on, either resource gathering missions, or they know of a mine that has been taken over by such and such group. Classic module thing. The Thieves Guild might send people on assassination missions. Most likely it'll be monsters, but it might be against a government or a thing like that, just trying to keep people in check. So overall, these missions might be stealth missions. Maybe you just want to daze or distract other people and then take out one guy or steal from a group or any number of things. So, and other guilds might hire the Thieves Guild to do work for them too. So, pardon me for one moment while I cough horribly. Okay, better. So yeah, I just like the thought process of these governments and guilds. Each of them have 2 or 3 jobs that they bring people on to do every event. If we have 4 different guilds, and we have 5 different lineages? 6. So that gives us 10 organizations overall, and each of them have 3 modules that they send people on. That's 30 modules throughout the course of an event that I can have written ahead of time. I can have staged. I can have information for all the resource or all the research groups. So instead of giving random information, maybe you'll give handouts instead. And that's 30 modules worth of content already set up that people that are uncomfortable like talking to people or things like that, they can just go and sign their name next to it and go and do. Maybe they make new friends. Maybe they integrate themselves into the guild who introduces them to people. It's one of the ways that we're planning on really getting people involved without giving people a chance to work within their comfort zone. It's basically the plan. Other than that, we're planning on doing cards in the woods like I've typically always done. That normally sets up like a queue system, so if too many people come in and bring in the cards in the woods, that we have a backup of modules. But it's one of those things where you can go looking for trouble yourself and find it out in the woods, and it could be a random thing. It could be a fight. It could be an interaction. It could be whatever. And you don't need to necessarily talk to people or anything like that. You can facilitate it on your own. So, yeah, that's pretty much going to be the rest of the rule book. I'm not getting into any of the social commentary. I'm not getting into any of the social contract stuff. I'm not getting into any of the behavior stuff. So it's one of those things where the rule book is straight up just rules, and it's going to have very little craft items and things like that. That's going to be up to the players. So if you want to learn different skills, you got to interact with the guilds and whatnot. But overall, that's the book. So right now I'm at 29 pages. I have a feeling that even if each of these, I have a feeling combat's going to take about 5 pages max. Magic's going to take about 2 or 3 pages max. Currency is a page. Research is a page. Crafting, 2 to 5 pages. Medical training, 2 to 5 pages. So, I mean, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20. So that puts us at 49, 50. I'm going to say 52 pages. So, I mean, I might be able to get it all wrapped up in 50 pages. And I think that's super cool. Like, very succinct, concrete, rulebook, done. The plan for it, I don't plan on selling it for a huge amount of money. I'll probably put it on Amazon, so people could do digital downloads of it and whatnot, and perhaps make physical copies of it. I like physical copies of rulebooks. But like I've said in previous statements, then I'll go and I'll make videos on YouTube on the games channel, not this channel. But I'll make videos for all of the lineages, and then all of the governments, because I want that separate. And then all of the guilds, kind of how they work and their in-game thought process, as well as some out-of-game stuff. And then just making videos on how the game systems work and whatnot, so it's easy for people to understand. I was talking to Britt at work. One of the fun things I really want to do, I want to make a video for NPCs, a training video for NPCs, very much stylized in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, corny VHS tape videos that like fast food restaurants would make for their employees to watch, that would take 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Just cheesy, over the top thing. But I want it to also be visible to the players, so they understand, hey, this is what it entails to be an NPC. This is the kind of thought process we go through. And just so everybody kind of is on the same page. I want the game should be about community and building it as a community, and just so everybody is on the same page, so they don't think the game is something it's not. And it gets everybody excited and invested in playing the game, and I'm super excited for that. I hope we can do it. So thanks very much for hanging out, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you, Nay and Gil, for the questions and the absurdity. I appreciate that. If anybody else has any questions or comments, feel free, hit me up on Facebook, on the page. Can send me an email. My email address should be on the stream. Yep, right underneath my picture there. Anybody that's interested in helping with the game, I'm starting to get people involved that might be interested. The whole thought process is playtest next year. And hopefully by the end of the year have a very solid foundation for the actual game and the game world. Pretty much the game world's already in my head, so that's all good. But I want people to find that out in game. I don't want to give out too many spoilers and too much history. So that's where I'm at. So thank you guys for hanging out. I really appreciate it. Have a great night, and I'll see you next time.